Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces and some new faces. We're so glad that you could join us for this presentation by our 2021 Touchstone interns. First, want to thank the Qualcomm Foundation as well as the Catherine Mavis Makena Foundation for making these supported internships possible. Touchstone could not run as efficiently as it does without the help and the generosity and the skill and the energy of these interns. And I want to say thank you to all of you who are presenting tonight. So far, our season has been really wonderful, and we know through all of the comments that we are receiving that your part in that is making a really positive impact. So thank you. You've been an amazing group to work with, and I'm glad that we're getting a chance to have you show your work and your trajectory with everybody that has joined this meeting. So I'm not going to say too much more because I want each of our interns to have a good amount of time to talk to you about their life and work. We are going to start with Mac. Do you want to take it from here?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mac. I'm the technician intern in the blacksmithing studio at Touchstone. Happy to be here for my third summer. I'm going to see if I can get this screen sharing going here. Okay, how's that looking?
It looks good on our end, Mac.
Thanks, Dan. All right, so like I said, my name is Makena. I go by Mac. This is a picture of me at the beginning of first grade. I grew up in the northwest corner of Washington State in an archipelago called the San Juan Islands, right next to Canada. And I also grew up on site at a summer camp called Camp Nor'Wester. That's a program for 9 through 16-year-olds. It's an excellent outdoor program. And although I did not end up going to art school in a formal way, I was very fortunate to grow up with a lot of access to a variety of different types of craft, including woodworking, ceramics, and textiles, and was able as a young person to play with any medium I could get my hands on, really, including some textiles and printmaking, some sculptural cake building, and my own person often. I would make my own clothes, and I still love to make costumes. I went to Fairhaven College of Interdisciplinary Studies and designed my own major. It was called Ecological Wellness and investigated systems of food production throughout the ages and contemporary systems of human food production. And then I became a bartender, and for a number of years I worked as a landscaper and a bartender, cleaning craft cocktails back in the San Juans, and had always kind of had metalworking in the back of my mind, but didn't get a chance to try it until I went to a festival in Eastern Washington and was able to have a very brief hands-on demonstration about making a hook. And I got extra lucky because a friend of mine happened to walk by at the very moment that I had my first ever forging lesson. So when I got home, I contacted a friend of a friend who is a blacksmith. His name is Jorgen Harl, and he very generously offered me some time in his shop to have some introductory lessons to the fundamentals of forging. And at his encouragement, I attended a 2-month concentration at Penland School of Craft, and I studied with Andy Donor and Erick Smith. And those 2 months helped me decide that this was indeed what I wanted to be doing with my life. So I ended up looking for work to learn more about metal. I did some production for a jewelry company called Material Wit that was mostly brass. And then I found an apprenticeship with a blacksmith and fabricator and sculptor in Seattle. Her name is Elaire Wells. Her business is called Tinder Heart Metals and Design, and her studio is in the Equinox Studio Complex in Georgetown in Seattle. With Elaire, I worked on a huge variety of projects, from architectural work, such as these railings and this banister, to some sculptural work, foundry, casting things. We worked on jewelry scale items. She taught me a lot about managing small businesses. We did craft fairs, performance art, really all kinds of stuff, private lessons. We taught kids. It was a fantastic way to spend 2 years. I also opened my own business while working for her, called Nettlefier Forge, and began to develop my own style, focusing on a lot of very delicate forgings and mostly functional items. These hairpins, bottle openers, casting. This is a bronze avocado. I had an internship at a neighboring plasma studio, so I learned a little bit about CNC plasma cutting, and I also worked part-time at doing fabrication for a small furniture company in downtown Seattle. At the beginning of 2019, I started to look for what was next, and I found Touchstone online and was very happy to be offered the internship here. Drove across the country and got to spend the summer in the amazing Hartmore studio. I focused a little bit that summer on tool making and learning to use some equipment in the shop that I hadn't had much time to spend with previously, continuing to develop my jewelry. Also focused on functional items like these brushes, my first set of lamps, more casting. These avocados and peaches are significantly smaller than the first ones that were pictured. And I spent some time in Pittsburgh at Rivers of Steel Arts at Carey Furnaces, learning more about casting iron through some folks who had come out to Touchstone to do a demonstration. I got to spend some time in the other studios. This is a hot dog bolo tie that I made for one of my coworkers that summer. So I got to spend time doing jewelry, also some wood firing. These are belt buckles that were fired in the wood kiln. And I got to take a 3-day class with Kit Paulson, learning a little bit about structural flame working in the glass studio. During COVID, I spent some time in the Northwest, or during the beginning of quarantine, rather. I spent time in the Northwest with my family and built a big garden with them. I was able to continue doing a little bit of tool making in a friend's shop. And I spent a little bit of time working at a plasma studio on Orcas Island called Salish Metalworks, doing a large job for them right before driving back across the country in the middle of the pandemic to return to Touchstone. That summer, I bought my first anvil. This is Phyllis. She's here with me. She's 66 pounds, so I can drive her around the country with me. And during that summer of 2020, I've returned to some of the same motifs in my jewelry and explored that a lot more in the studio, focused on streamlining my production methods. And I'm very happy to say that I was able to, Lindsay connected me with Contemporary Craft in Pittsburgh, and they now have this jewelry in their retail space. I continued wood firing and returned. Generally my focus, but I'm enjoying very much. I also investigated a number of different styles of vessel making that summer, which was new and fun. These are tiny copper enameled bowls, the largest of which is about 1 inch in diameter. I made many in steel as well, including this one with a brass riveted constellation of a night owl. And happily stumbled upon a new body of work that I affectionately refer to as Buns of Steel, which are these functional divided bowls that look like butts. Over the winter, I worked in Texas doing helping on an architectural project. This is our shop kitchen that is directly next to a 250-pound Chambersburg power hammer. We worked on over 300 feet of bronze railing for a new home in Missouri. I was there for about 5 months, and we made 8 of these panels that are forged and fabricated. This is one of them installed on site. That job is, it's still happening, and there are many other sections that are not pictured here. But I learned a lot about bronze. I also got to work with some friends there and in the evenings in the shop and make tools. I made my first hammer, some other tooling. I built myself a teeny tiny forge. I call it my micro forge, and it's what I use to produce my jewelry with now. And I focused on some smaller items like this articulated wine key. This is me back at Touchstone this summer. I've still been continuing to make more tools and have been focusing in particular on learning more about, this is a hammer I'm working on. I'm learning more about equipment maintenance and repair, making studio improvements, and really familiarizing myself with some of the larger pieces of equipment in the studio. I took a CAD class a few weeks ago doing computer-assisted design and was able to make this record player adapter. Learned a lot, and I've been branching out a little bit into larger pieces of jewelry. This is a torque necklace that I made just the other day. And I'm especially excited to be working more on sculpture, which is in a larger scale for me. And so this is the beginning of a project that will be installed on Touchstone's campus of a seaweed bullwhip kelp. And there's a lot more to be said about the forging exhibition that the interns and myself are organizing for this fall in Johnstown, but that should be left for another Zoom call perhaps, but that's also been a big part of the summer and something that I'm enjoying a lot. And here is the Touchstone studio. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mac. We will have a little question and answer session after everyone gives their presentations. There's a lot of questions I want to ask the interns as well. So we'll also let all of you ask questions, but we'll reserve that to after they each do their 10-minute presentation. So thank you, Mac. I really enjoyed seeing that. Next up is Erick.
Okie dokie.
So while Erick is getting set up, I just want to say that it's amazing that we're able to bring this presentation to all of you tonight, because less than 4 years ago, we did not have Wi-Fi throughout campus. And the difference it has made since then to have pretty reliable internet in all of campus has really been amazing and allowed us to do a lot more, especially in 2020 when we were shut down. Over to you, Erick.
Okay, just want to double check. Can you guys see the screen, my presentation?
Yes. You're
Hello?
good, Erick. Yep.
You're there now.
Looks good.
Okay, gotcha. So hi everyone. My name is Erick Castrejon. I am a blacksmith from Illinois, Waukegan, Illinois to be exact. And this is my presentation. So right here, first things off the bat, the first time I actually encountered an actual anvil, and that was my first and most happiest time because this was during a summer camp. where we were learning about material sciences, and they had this little event where they brought some blacksmiths from Missouri over in Ohio, and we just made like a quick S-hook and went from there. So a brief autobiography about myself. So I am from Waukegan, Illinois. I'm the youngest child of two. Growing up, I was always into art from what my parents always told me. My mom was a bit of an artist herself, and she would always recall me just getting like a crayon or pencil and just drawing and sticking my tongue out, pretending like I was doing something huge. And I am alone here with my family. Everyone else is in Mexico, but whenever I get to visit, I do enjoy seeing the art over there. So in the bottom image, you'll notice that there's a whole lot of art all over the place, especially on that wall right there. And it's amazing how inspiring the art there can be, especially during, like, for instance, Day of the Dead. And yeah, so my beginning. As a child, I loved Spider-Man. I was fascinated with him and was just so fanatic about it. And so I drew him a lot. And from there, that's what kind of kept me being more inspired to wanting to continue art. So I kept drawing him. I, in addition, just started going off to different kind of routes. So around 5th grade, I began painting. And I started off with acrylics and slowly built up to oil with a teacher. And it wasn't in any official art school. It was more of a self-taught artist who offered classes at her house. And so I'd go there around once or twice a week and would just continue to practice. So up in the top, you'll notice one of my oil paintings there. That's one of the most proudest ones, in my opinion. And then eventually I kind of got tired of the two-dimensional kind of items and wanted to go into 3D. So I started doing some stitching and sewing with leather. I also started doing a little bit of woodworking. And so that slowly transitioned into me wanting to make bow and arrows. So from there, I started working with iron. And as you'll notice, I was the typical kid who liked playing with sharp objects, who probably shouldn't have. But my first ever knife was from a pair of scissors that were broken, and I just got like a propane torch, heated it up, hit it on a block of wood with a hammer, and considered that forging. And from there, I just kind of wanted to do more of it. And I got a YouTube recommendation about how to make a lawnmower, or how to turn a lawnmower into a forge. And so that's where I just began my blacksmithing journey. And so right here, you'll notice how there's a whole bunch of photos of knives. So the one all the way to the left was the one made out of scissors. The one in the middle was me actually somewhat trying to make a knife from a pair of files. And then the one all the way to the right is a couple of knives, but I did not know at the time that there were different kinds of steel. So this was made out of mild steel, and it was something that's not hardenable. And in the world of knives, you want something that can be hardened to keep an edge. All right, and so the actual blacksmithing begins. So as I mentioned before, I got my dad's lawnmower and I took it apart and converted it into a forge, just as you can notice in the image in the bottom. And yeah, he wasn't really happy about that, but it was definitely something new and different that I was enjoying myself. My family, when I had finally finished making my forge, were so confused at what I was trying to make, and they called it a grill and looked at me as I took out a hot piece of nail and started hitting it with the hammer. And they weren't really amused at the time, but eventually they noticed what I could do with something like this. And my first ever anvil was this Harbor Freight cast iron one. And as I mentioned in the first image of my presentation, that was me with an actual anvil. This one is an anvil technically, but it wasn't the best. With tools, I just tried gathering whatever kind of hammers, anything I could really find that was steel, and trying to turn it into something or some tool that could help me create even bigger projects. And so over time, I would just continue forging through winters and springs, and this little forge was just my best friend for the time. And so transitioning to now, now I have gathered a whole lot of experience here at Touchstone. I have definitely learned a lot more than I have, I'd say, in my first 2 years of trying to teach myself. And just the machinery here was amazing and still is. And learning from people such as Mac, the instructors, and some students as well, was amazing because of the fact that I thought I knew a good amount and I was so wrong. But it was truly interesting to see things such as like the power hammers, which I have never used and was always kind of intimidated about. And it was fascinating to actually being able to use it and having that kind of ability and benefit to prolong and benefit my own work as well. And as I mentioned, learning along students was something amazing. I got a lot of inspiration from some people. If you'll notice to the right, that image is of a snake. That was during teen week, during our snake off. I have never tried making something in a time limit. So having to make a snake within 30 minutes was something completely new to me. My forearm hurt by the end of it. And it was amazing because this is just something where I had to constantly be attentive and just make sure that I was on time with everything. And on the left, you'll notice there's a flower, and that is one of the best flowers that I have made, in all honesty. And I'm really proud of it because of the fact that it was riveted, which is something I can't do at home. I don't have a strong enough torch at home to rivet stuff like that. And with my forge, it's a little tricky because my welds aren't the best, because I do not have the best welder either. And going to the welders here are amazing as well. And so from there, yeah, I just kept taking notes and learning from people. And especially during, like, let's say, for example, the knife making classes, I made knives and I learned so much more from someone who actually dedicated their life to this. And so now I have a whole bunch of new artwork. So on the left, you'll notice a whole assortment of stuff that I have made. So it's the same flower from the previous slide, but there is now a spider, which I am in love with and I will forever keep with me. I do back at home make small jewelry such as axes and knives and like little hammers as well. And so you'll see 2 of those right there. And I made a little Thor's hammer pendant. And so back at home, I don't have a blacksmith's vise, which is completely different from a regular vise because it's able to take a hammering a little bit. And so upsetting material was so much fun because of the fact that it didn't keep sliding out or my vise wouldn't wobble. And I have never worked with like sculpture kind of work. So making a face onto a bottle opener, as you'll notice in that same image, was something interesting for me. And on the right and top, you'll notice that I have made some Mokumegane, which is essentially 2 non-ferrous metals stacked and layered on top of each other to make some sort of interesting pattern. And I made that out of a stack of quarters here, and that was really amazing because it's something I've always watched videos about but never was able to do. And it was a dream come true for me. And then you'll see Mac's little snail there on the bottom right, made out of copper and TIG welt all together. And now, currently, I have been practicing a little more and wanting to hone my skills. So that flower that I showed you in the previous slide was during my first or second week here. And this is from this current week with copper and steel at the same time. And I'm honestly happy at the differences that I can note and see. And on the right, you'll notice that I have also been trying to practice forge welding as well as making Damascus, which is something I've never tried before and I've always wanted to do. And yeah, I want to say thank you so much to Touchstone for what I have slowly become now. And I can definitely say I'm really happy here. And here's my contact info. And you'll see the majestic JV.
Thank you so much, Eric. And we were very happy to have you this summer. It's mutual respect. I'm going to turn it over now to Ryan.
Hello. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, you are good.
Okay, great. So hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm the studio assistant in the painting and drawing studio this season. Although I like to say that I'm an indecisive artist of many different mediums, and you'll see why in a second. So before coming to Touchstone, I started working towards getting a studio art major at the College of Worcester, which I'm still in the process of. So the first course I ever took in college was Intro to Drawing, where I first used charcoal, and I sort of fell in love with it. So because we're in Ohio, our first project was a corn study, which is on the right-hand corner. And then by the end of the class, I did my final project, which is Lost in the Black-Eyed Susans. They're both charcoal pieces. Then the next class I took was a sculpture course, which was cut short by COVID. But I was luckily able to make this wooden sculpture, which is meant to be a prosthetic for narcolepsy, which is caused by the loss of the hormone hypocretin, which is a hormone that tells a person when to wake up and fall asleep. And this is kind of meant to replace those missing hormones. Then the next year I took printmaking, which also got cut short by COVID. So I only got to learn how to do woodblock printing, not screen printing, which was really sad. But I made these two prints. The first one was First Date Jitters, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. And it's about someone getting ready for a first date. And then the one on the left is a tribute to James Brown. Yeah, and then after my last two classes were derailed by COVID, I decided to take a digital art course so that wouldn't happen again, which actually surprised me. I didn't think I was going to like it at all, but I really enjoyed it. So this was my final project, which is based on a song by Hozier called In a Week, and it's about grief and loss and coping through knowing that one day you will be reunited with the one you lost. It starts in the upper left-hand corner and it ends in the lower right-hand corner. I also got into marketing within the last year when I started working as an intern for the student activities department on my campus. One of my tasks is a weekly newsletter detailing all the events going on campus during the week. So this one is an example of one I made one week, and it's based on the book, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and the little guy with the hat is our mascot. And then I found Touchstone while I was looking for a summer internship after losing so much time in the studio over the last year and a half. I knew I wanted to get some more experience in a studio, so I found Touchstone and I applied, and luckily I got it. So at Touchstone, I was able to delve back into charcoal, which I hadn't used in quite a while. And I started looking at life through water, which is how these two pieces came to fruition. Please Notice Me is in the left-hand corner, and it's based on a song. And then Dancing in the Rain is in the lower right-hand corner. And it's about a summer memory I have of dancing with my cousin in the rain. I also have been able to work on my acrylic painting skills through some pet portraits. Zara is my service dog, but that one's for JB. And then Wesley is my half sister's bunny. So I was supposed to make that for her for Christmas, but it was a late Christmas present. And then I also made a piece called Words Unspoken, which is about a line I wrote in my journal that reads, "Hold me through the blue till the winter fades and the roses bloom." I also got to try out a lot of new mediums, which is kind of my favorite thing to do. So I made some stickers of dancing fruit that'll go in our mini gallery that's happening. And I made a poster using colored pencils and ink, which is not really something I've ever done before. And then I also made a ceramic slab of the Touchstone Intern squad. That was an interesting experience. I was also lucky enough to gain some marketing experience by working for Dean, who is in charge of marketing for Touchstone. I posted daily stories for him on the Instagram, took videos of demos, and filmed interviews with instructors for an upcoming series about pathways into professions in the arts. I also helped Mac create some advertising for the blacksmithing exhibition that they are spearheading. So I created the imagery and formatting of the ad in the lower right-hand corner. But honestly, like, the best thing and most unexpected thing that Touchstone is giving me is these wonderful memories and strong friendships with a group of incredible people who are all extremely talented artists. And it's nice to know that after this summer ends, we will all stay in touch and support one another as we pursue our careers. So that's it. If you want to contact me or stay up to date on my art, you can email me at jseaton-evans23@worcester.edu, or you can follow me on Instagram at Seaton-Evans_art. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Next up, we have JB. JB, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Lindsay. All right. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is JB. I'm here as the fine metal studio technician. My family lives in Cincinnati right now. I'm going to school in Indiana, and I kind of grew up in Wisconsin. So see here, me at like 14, 15, this is in Wisconsin. This is in high school when I was first introduced to pottery, which is where I got my start in craft. Yeah, this is actually at my first ever showing. I kind of put this together with some friends to try and raise money for our high school art program. Yeah. And then thanks to my teacher in high school, I got to, I was like pushed to do an apprenticeship with John Thomas, who's a potter in Dunn County, Wisconsin. And that's in 2015. And it was about a year that I got to do that. And it was an incredible experience. I just got to work with a working artist for a really long time and see how he lived and see what he did. And he showed me so much about the craft of making pottery. So that was amazing. And then in the next part of high school, I went to Cincinnati, and I worked at a community clay center called Queen City Clay. There I did a lot of functional pottery, and I tried out some sculpture, as you can see to the right. Yeah, and that was in 2016. It was a pretty amazing experience, yeah. Then I took a gap year, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my college career. I wanted to figure out what I was going to major in. Yeah, and so I took a gap year I worked at a glass factory and then went hiking to try and just take some time and be mindful about what I'm doing with my life, basically. Yeah, and so then I ended up at Earlham College in Indiana. And Earlham was suggested for me to go to by the guy who ran Queen City Clay. He was like, yeah, you should go here. And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, so when I got to college, I thought I was going to be doing engineering. Yeah, I was really excited to do engineering. That's what I had decided to do. But I still loved art, and it's a liberal arts college. So I did some drawing and just really, really enjoyed it. Here's some henna tattooing I did as a project of some spiders and a monarch caterpillar. Yeah, here's a study of, this is actually an actual object of a plaster cast. So it's pretty impressive, but yeah, that was a fun time. But then I got into metalworking. And at this point I was starting to realize, I don't know, I'm kind of in love with art a lot. So this was the second project I did ever. This is I did a selfie, a little metal selfie, and then I got to do an earring set, a ring set. Yeah, and I work with Melissa Agabigam in college, and she's an amazing professor. We do not deserve her. I say that all the time because we don't really. But she taught me, she's one of those people that's a stickler for really nice solder lines. So I got to learn a lot from her. Here's some boxes I made, I believe my first year in metals. Yeah, and then I got to do some more ceramics, which is what I was really gearing to go for. And I kind of, at this point, I was like, okay, I definitely am wanting to do some art. Yeah, but yeah, I got to do some ceramic chain. That was super fun. I was just trying to make large vessels. Here's some mugs I did. And here's a set of, there are 3 sets of vases and cups. So I believe this one was supposed to signify water. This one's was supposed to signify light or electricity. And then, oh, this one's water. The other one was air. Yeah. So yeah. And then I got into enameling, which is kind of what I'm really excited about right now. So enameling is just putting melting glass onto copper, which is just a way of sealing the copper and coloring it. And so here I did watercolor enamel, which is my favorite art form, basically. But here you can see the back of it. Yeah, it was inspired by a storybook. And then I got into more vessel making. This is my shapes vessel cylinder box. Yeah, it's having a lot of fun trying to make, small metals is all about precision and doing things well the first time, right? Doing a lot of measuring. So I was trying my best to do that. And then I got into doing some mixed media jewelry, basically. And so this actually got into a touring exhibition, which was amazing. This is a necklace called She's Over There. Yeah, and I think I have another picture of it. Yes. And then this is my last year in college. I got into making hugging urns. This was kind of as a result of the pandemic. I felt, because I was in quarantine for so long, I really missed hugging people. And so this object is a clay sculpture that you can hug. I made 3 of them in total. Here are pictures of my friends with them. Then I got to Touchstone. Yeah, in Farmington, Pennsylvania. And yeah, I have now fallen in love with this place. Yeah. So I'm a technician for the small metal studio, but because COVID is, happening and the small metal studio is kind of small, I got to jump around a lot. So here I am in the blacksmithing studio, learning to forge for the first time in my life. I got to make a bottle opener with Andy Upright. And as you can see, this is my first time making something for my family that's not really ceramic. So that was fun. Yeah. And then I made some earrings modeled by the amazing Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah. So yeah, they're fawn earrings. Hopefully you can see them. Yeah, made out of silver. And then I got because a resident artist was here, I got to really go into my studio and practice enameling, which is, as I said, like the thing I'm probably most excited about right now. I got to make a lot of pendants and brooches. And these are the pieces that will be set for pendants and brooches. Yeah, and they are, as you can see from the right object, the flip side is black, like in the left picture. So they all have different colors on different sides. It's supposed to be kind of surprising when you turn it over. I got to put my work in the gallery here. I get to sell my work at the auction we have every week. That's been an amazing experience. Just having the opportunity to sell my work. I hadn't really had that before, like not a weekly experience like that anyway. Yeah, and then I got to do a 3D modeling class with Michael Nashif. Yeah, that's a red star box I made with him. It was just kind of amazing that I got to do this because I've been super interested in 3D modeling after a class I did in college. And he's just a total pro. And he is specifically good at jewelry design, which is exactly what I'm interested in. So it was just kind of perfect. Yeah. And then I got to do bead making with Joy Knepp. You can see some process photos here. I got to do that for about 2 weeks. And here are some earrings and a necklace I made as a result of those classes, assisting with her. Yeah, and I had never done bead making before. And here we are in stained glass, which is the week that I just had. And so we, here at Touchstone, there's a lot of wildlife, and a rosy maple moth was just by the ceramic studio. I think it had it had landed on Becca somehow, and she let me hold it, and it was just kind of magical. And so here I am making some stained glass inspired by that moth. And here is the moth done, complete. Yeah, I was very pleased with it. It's been amazing to work with Neely. Yeah. And also I made a copper pendant for our mini art gallery we're having. It's called Art a la Carte. It's here on campus. Yeah, it's all food inspired miniature art. But yeah, thank you everyone. Please follow my Instagram. It's PTTRYS person. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here with everyone. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you so much, JB. And the different exhibitions and galleries that the interns have been mentioning, we will talk about those after the presentations, because we do have some pretty exciting things happening. Julia, I'm going to turn it over to you next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Castor. I am the ceramics technician here at Touchstone Center for Crafts. This is my second season here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey here, but also about how amazing this place has been. So I wanted to just start off right away by saying that one of the best parts about Touchstone is the amazing communities that are formed, both between all the interns, but with every workshop that happens every week. It is really, truly the most creative community experience I've ever had in my life. And I'm so privileged to be part of this amazing place in that way. So my work is split between fine art and fine craft. I am a ceramicist, mostly working with high fire porcelain. I do a lot of pieces that are inspired by the natural world. And a lot of my pieces are very much inspired by watercolor paintings. I'm always trying to bring kind of the fine art side into my porcelain work. So these are just a few pieces pre-coming to Touchstone. These are from this year, but before I arrived on campus. So the thing about Touchstone is it's endless opportunities to expand and grow and explore different techniques. So on the left, you see a picture of me trying some new techniques on my pieces. In a workshop we had a few weeks ago, I'm doing some paper resist, which I had done a little bit before, but not nearly to the extent that I was able to while here. And I learned all about some new ways of doing it that work even more effectively. So there are some pieces, some experimentation pieces waiting to be fired. There's some tiles on the far right of just different textures and images that I was playing with. Another thing I've been doing since being here, with the encouragement of a lot of the instructors and just the electric atmosphere of the studio, is to push porcelain to its limits. So on the left is a basket I just finished. This is a basket that I pierced and heavily pierced, and then the handles are heavily pierced as well. It's very, very light and thin. It was tricky to try to make it so it didn't collapse, but it seems to have worked. And then on the right is a piece that is actually very tall. It's a coil-built porcelain vessel that I learned this technique a few weeks ago in one of our workshops, and now I'm hooked on it. It is not typical to throw this large with porcelain, but once you know the correct way to do it, it's really an incredible thing to play with. Here are a few more images of some pieces that I have made while here on campus this summer. I'm experimenting with new glazes that I'm mixing in our glaze lab and some new textures. I'm experimenting also with carving, which is not something I typically do, but I'm really getting into that. Another thing that is amazing about being on this campus is all the natural resources that are around. I've always been fascinated by working with clay from its roots, as opposed to using all commercially processed materials. I really am fascinated by getting back to the earth and starting from scratch. And Touchstone is the perfect place to do that because we have an incredible campus, acres and acres of beautiful land that has natural clay and can be processed down into a really beautiful clay. And so up in the top right corner is a selection of 3 buckets. 2 are our natural Touchstone clay that I was digging and processing. And the black bucket is ash that I was processing for ash glazes. And you can see more natural clay being dug on the low left. And then I also had the opportunity to make some brushes. So up in the top left is a little bamboo brush with deer hair that I made, plus a lot of tests. So I am very, my process history is very much electric firing. So the piece on the left is a piece I made before coming here that is inspired by Isnik tiles. In my home studio, I am working with an electric kiln, but Touchstone has some amazing atmospheric kilns. I'm actually in front of one of them here. It's our Naborigama wood kiln, but we also have a gas kiln. And I'm very interested in taking my really super tight geometric and tapestry and drawing patterns and putting them in an atmospheric firing that messes them up in some way. I love that contrast. So you can see in the left image, it's very tight, but then the wood kiln, these 2 pieces I fired in the wood kiln last year here, and the wood kiln ash just kind of gets in there and messes it all up. And I love that drama and that energy that comes from the ash. On that same note, I love atmospheric firing and I love it in all its forms. So on the far left is an image of our gas kiln that we have here. We actually just fired it last week, which was super exciting, or this past workshop actually. The next image over is a Raku vessel that I made a few weeks ago. On the far right is the bin that it was in. We did a little Raku on campus here, which is something I haven't had the chance to do since high school. So that was really awesome to get back into that. And then the middle image is a wood-fired pot, also from our Naborigama. Here are more atmospheric firing pictures. There's me stoking the kiln in the left. On the far right, I'm not being antisocial, I'm just loading the gas kiln, which is also something I don't get very much practice doing. So I'm very privileged to be able to work with instructors who trust me to do things like that and are just like, no, you do it. I'll just stand back here. It was an amazing experience. And then in the lower left-hand corner is our wood kiln after the last stoke of a wood firing. And you can just see the flame is leaping out of the top and it's just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. So the other side of me, I started as a painter. So the older side of my art career is as a painter. I have studied fine art since I was about 12. And I'm still technically in art school. I study fine art and art history in a small art school. And these are some of my paintings, very much inspired by art history, but with a contemporary edge. I am very much interested in color in all of my work and experimenting with color. Touchstone also has a wonderful drawing and painting studio that I've had the chance to work out of a little bit this year. And so while I am the ceramics technician, I'm still able to kind of circulate around and get into the painting studio. And these are some pieces I've been working on in there. Commission pieces, but also trying some new techniques. I'd never really worked with watercolor pencil before, and the middle piece is with watercolor pencil, as is the one on the far left. So new techniques, and I'm really interested in this now, and I want to do more of it. On that note as well, I had the incredible opportunity two weeks ago, to teach a 5-day workshop in the painting studio, which was kind of a last minute whirlwind that ended up being one of the most amazing experiences I've had here yet. We did art journaling. So we studied a variety of different mediums and plugged them into journals, combining words, images, and in some cases music. And it was just an amazing group of people. It was a wonderful experience planning a workshop and pulling it off and bringing it all together. And it was truly the best workshop experience I could have had as a first timer. So here are some images of my class and some of their work. And thank you so much. This is my contact info. Please feel free to follow me and contact me. This has been an incredible summer, and I can't wait for the rest of it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Julia. Appreciate that presentation and your kind words about Touchstone as well. And next we have Becca. Becca, I'm going to turn it over to you. Don't forget to take yourself off mute.
Can everyone see that? Amazing. All right. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm the ceramics assistant intern this summer over at Touchstone. It's been an incredible experience so far just to see how much my work has progressed. And I'll start from somewhat of the beginning of my art journey so that we can all see it in some awesome pictures. So in college, I knew that I wanted to study art, but I didn't grasp which medium to sort of fall into yet. So I started out as a sculpture major, and I made a lot of carvings, large sculptures, wood sculptures, and I moved into clay and started doing clay sculptures and installing them around my campus. And the middle image is one that I installed in campus, and it's still there, which is awesome. But I didn't really have any use of these items, and I really wanted something that wasn't going to collect dust, and I knew that they were going to have a purpose, a functionality to it, and that I could return to once I had it. So I started making more functional items that were sculptural. So on the far right are turtle salt and pepper shakers, and those were in a cone 6 electric firing. But as I continued my journey through school, I sort of fell in love with any and all atmospheric firings because I had no control of the effects of what could happen. So you could put an item in a firing and it'll return to you a completely new person. So these are two images of the same Chino glaze on two different pieces. On the left side, it was just an old batch, came back completely different than what I thought it was going to be. And on the right side was a completely new batch that came back so deliciously beautiful. But I'll keep going. I've always loved gas firing, Raku firing. I never decorated anything because I wanted to see the process of the atmospheric firing that was happening. So any movement of the fire would be shown as a record on the clay surface. So we can see on the left side, that would be the most amount of decorating that I would put into a piece. And then I would always carve something because I think it's sort of embedded in me as a first sculpture major back in the day. So it's sort of never gone away in my work. But as soon as I got to Touchstone, I had this incredible opportunity right the first week to do a Sagger firing, which I had never done before with jewels. And we threw a pot in extremely fast after we did some grounds work. This is sort of the process in the most basic form. And it came out beautifully. It showed the process, the fire. It showed remnants of different materials that we had put into our foil wrapping. It was just an incredible experience that I would love to do again. And all the decoration that comes with it is from the firing itself. So there's not a lot of control to be had with these types of firings, which is definitely rocks my world. But as I continued further during my experience here, I didn't have enormous gas kilns that I was used to. So I needed to figure out how to decorate these pieces in an electric firing. And those firings are very controlled and very precise. So I started decorating the bottoms of my mugs just as a fun little surprise. And it sort of evolved into decorating larger pieces where you can see the decoration itself. This is an enormous platter that I decided to decorate. So this is a slip, and then I would carve a drawing or a picture out from the slip so that it would reveal the design. And this is at bisqued, so it came out wonderfully. And I would love to throw it in a wood kiln and see what that would do to it and see if it would rough it up a little bit. Just so it's not so precise and controlled, and it would show the process of the firing. And more processes that I have never done before. This was my first experience with porcelain and large, enormous vessels with it. This was a coil-built, semi-wheel thrown piece that we did with Julie Wiggins's workshop. You can see us all incredibly happy on the left side. And it was just an incredible experience to just experience that, that process. Definitely more and more new processes that I've learned this entire experience so far. We were able to do Raku, and I live for Raku because it is one of the most intense atmospheric firings you can do. It's immediate, it's a little bit aggressive, and it comes out never what you expect. So I did these knot pieces in college that I thought that I should return to, where the knot would interrupt the form, and it would just be a form interrupted by another form, just to play with people a little bit. And it turned out wonderfully. These are some images of that, and I am in the makings of another one, and I'm hoping that we can do another Raku before this summer ends. And it's just an incredible process that I was so happy that we were able to do. And I made a little skull that we made in Raku. I started getting back into sculpture, which is strange for me, but I'm embracing it at this point. And then during Adrian Eliadis's class, I think was a very big breakthrough for me in terms of decorating my pots, which I never do ever. She certainly forced me to think about the surface of my pots and how I want them to look down to a T. And it comes out the exact same way that I had planned them to look, which is very strange for me to have complete control from start to end and for it to come out exactly the way I thought they would be, which is an entirely new concept. So I made quite a bit of them. These are just different images of different ones that I've made throughout the week. And she's helped me in terms of layering colors, in terms of stenciling, thinking about the entire composition of the mug, not just the inside or the outside, but the bottoms, the handles, the feet. Every inch of this mug has been in complete control, which is very, very strange. And then I was able to get back into sculpture again with this new a la carte exhibition that we are doing in miniature size. This is a grilled cheese that I just recently made. And that's my joyous face of me sculpting cheese. And then throughout this whole Touchstone experience, I've been able to experience different medias, which is incredible. This is during Neely Cooper's class, which I was very, very fortunate that she snuck me in for the last day and a half of her workshop, making stained glass. And this is a stained glass feather that she helped me make. She outlined it for me and I picked out glass, numbered them, cut them, and assembled. The bottom middle is my excitement turning into Gollum from Lord of the Rings, which is hilarious, but it ended up turning out incredibly. I'm hoping that I can return and make another piece, which I am in the works of making. It's just been an incredible experience to be able to just explore different processes, not within just clay, but in other workshops and other studios as well, where teachers would let me do that. And it's just a great place to build a community. I've stayed within the same area for most of my art career, and me branching out here to Touchstone, it's definitely given me a bigger community, a bigger network of people that I can rely on, that I can bounce ideas off of. It's just an incredibly rewarding place. Met new people, had a lot of bugs attached to me. This one is a moth, and this is JB's moth at the very bottom. And it's just been an incredible place to learn not just different medias, but from the people that I've met. And this is my contact information if you do so choose.
Thank you, Becca. Appreciate that. So everybody has mentioned their Instagram, and I encourage you all who are tuned in to follow these artists because they will be the artists who are teaching and leading the way in the future. We know that there are big things in store for each one of them, although everyone's journey may be different, but the talent is astounding. And we appreciate that you guys have shared your time and your talent and your passion with Touchstone and our community this summer. I love that everybody mentioned how much of a community is built at Touchstone throughout the season. And I like to say that we build a new community every week. And that is what is so special about places like Touchstone, is that community that's built with all of the changing of the students and the changing of the instructors and the interns as well. Just wanted to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about a couple of the exhibitions that were mentioned by some of you. One is your Art a la Carte exhibition, which for those of you who have not been on our campus, Stacy, who is here tonight, she is our gallery coordinator, turned our little free library into a little gallery. And we have been hosting exhibitions in that little gallery. And if somebody could talk a little bit about the idea behind this year's exhibition and when it will be installed, that would be great.
Yeah, so this summer we decided to do a food themed exhibition, all of miniature work, and it's called Art a la Carte. So we're going to have a exhibition with mediums from all different studios. Each of the interns as well as the summer staff will have pieces on exhibit. And we're going to have a label on the outside of the gallery, which is formatted like a menu. And it'll have all the pieces there along with the information about each piece and the artist. And that's going to be installed and ready to view tomorrow. So feel free to stop by. We are open on the weekends for tours. And then it will be up for 2 weeks. So be sure to stop by and check it out.
Thanks, Stacy. And we are open on the weekends. Our gallery is open from 10 to 4, Saturday and Sunday. And I would encourage you to stop by and see these artists work in person, not just in the little gallery, but also in our retail gallery, our main gallery in Blaney Lodge. They're having a hard time keeping up with restocking their work because it's been selling so well, which is what we love to see happen. So I hope that you'll get a chance to check that out. I'm sure that you can also purchase work from them directly if you follow their social media as well. There's another big exhibition that we are in the process of organizing, or I should say that the interns are in the process of organizing. Each year, we try to give the interns some professional development opportunities that are a little beyond what you would normally have available to participate in at this stage in your career. One of the really successful professional development opportunities that we've been working on is finding a professional gallery that is not at Touchstone, and approaching them about having our interns actually mount an exhibition from start to finish. So from conception through working with a budget, through contacting artists, contacting them again when they don't answer your deadlines, installing the work, advertising the opportunity, all the way through shutting the show down and returning the work to the artists. It's an incredible opportunity. We joke around and say part of what it does for the artists is that it makes them never miss a deadline again, because they realize how frustrating it is when people are missing their deadlines. But overall, it's just a really wonderful thing that we're able to offer, and we've been successful doing that for a few years. This year, Touchstone sought out a grant to help fund this opportunity, and a space at a gallery in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. The reason being is that the ABANA conference, the Artists Blacksmiths of North America conference, is being held in Johnstown this year. And we thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to mount an exhibition of forged work that would be available to the public throughout the entire conference and located right down the street So I'm going to actually ask Mac to talk a little bit about that exhibition. We handed it over to Mac to be the point person for the exhibition, and she has been working with the interns to organize every single aspect of this. You saw that Ryan designed the advertising, and Mac, you want to tell us a little bit more about this show?
Sure. So the show is called Rejoined, which is an acknowledgement that we are now able to gather again in person to celebrate the arts, to attend receptions at galleries, and also as an opportunity for smiths to exhibit the many, many different types of joinery that are integral to a lot of different forging processes. So we have folks of many different backgrounds from all over the country, emerging artists, some very well-known and established smiths, and a huge variety of styles and techniques included in the exhibition. I'm very excited about it. It opens on the 10th of September, which happens to be just the day before the Center for Metal Arts, also located in Johnstown, will be hosting their Cambria Iron Fest. And then the closing reception is on the 15th of October. It's a Friday. It'll be that evening, which is just right in the middle of the Abana conference. And we're actually working with Abana to organize that event together. So it's great that it's bookended by two blacksmithing conferences in the same town. And it's been an excellent learning experience for the interns. And it's just going to be a great variety of some really impressive and enjoyable work.
Thanks, Mac. We can't wait to see it all put together. I know that everyone in Johnstown is excited about it. And you guys have been doing some really fantastic work on that exhibition. So thank you to all of you for working on that, and do hope that it's a really rewarding experience learning all the behind the scenes stuff that goes into putting together a professional exhibition. I'm sure that it's a lot more work than you would ever imagine until you actually take on that job of doing that. There are a lot of benefits to being an intern. One thing that I think is amazing is that you get all of the artists that you ever wanted to learn from coming to you instead of you having to go to them. So here you are immersed in these studios and you don't have to leave, and all of these artists come to you and teach you everything they know. And then the next week, another round of artists come in. Can somebody talk a little bit about that and how different that is than an experience where you say are in school and have to seek out those additional learning opportunities? JB?
Yeah, I could say definitively I've learned more about professional development here than I have in my 3 years at college. I get to talk one-on-one with teachers for hours sometimes at the campfire, at dinner, during workshops. I've learned so much, like specific things about, like, I didn't know that I could make a living doing craft shows. There's just a lot of different things that were totally I had no idea about until I got here. So that's been specifically an amazing experience, getting to know the teachers personally. Yeah.
And I can say from my own personal experience, coming through the craft school system and being an intern many, many years ago, I won't say how many, that it's my favorite thing about the craft world in general is how open and sharing everybody is. And I think that you'll find that these artists are open to be there as mentors going forward in your career. So I encourage you to keep in touch with them as well. Another really wonderful aspect about Touchstone that many of you have touched on is our real bucolic campus, being nestled in the woods. And I'd love if somebody could talk a little bit about what that part of the experience has meant for you, to have that complete immersion in nature. Rebecca?
So I mostly work in the city, in Baltimore, Maryland, and I went to college in the city. And having the experience to come out here and be surrounded by complete silence and nature and this community is incredibly inspiring. It sort of forces me to not get distracted by anything around me so I can solely focus on my work, which is really, really great.
Thanks, Becca. Another thing that a lot of you touched on is how you've been able to experience other studios and maybe have aha moments in different media that you just never expected to encounter, let alone have a chance to try and have it impact your work. Is there anyone that could speak to maybe one of those moments where it gave you insight into perhaps pursuing another method of working or combining a new skill from another media into your practice? JB?
Yeah, actually, I probably have the most experience in this. I've gone into 3 different studios, separate from the one from my own. It has been amazing getting to. I've learned how to forge. I've learned how to do lamp working, and I've now learned how to do stained glass. This is, I mean, it's incredible, and it's something that will help me professionally, I believe, like, especially if I want to go into any type of craft establishment, but specifically in my multimedia art. I have a senior show coming up, and I know I'm going to incorporate some of the skills I've learned into that. So that's just super exciting. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Last year, we had a complete shutdown of all of our in-person workshops at Touchstone, but we were fortunate enough to be able to bring on a selection of interns. And Julia, can you speak a little bit about the difference between last year being on campus as an intern versus this year?
Absolutely. So last year was more of there were only about 6 of us on campus all summer, and it was very much more of like a residency situation where we were in the studios 24/7 making work, and it was incredible. It was just amazing to have that focused time to just make, in my case, make pots and paint. But at the same time, the students that come on campus and the instructors are such a humongous part of Touchstone. So to have last year, which was amazing, but then contrast it with this year when we actually have students on campus again, it has been incredible. As I mentioned before, a word that often comes to mind when I think about Touchstone and what is happening in the studios is electric energy. And it's very true, because whether it's from the instructors or it's from learning from some of the people who come on campus to take the classes, there's just always some new perspective that you can get from this community that is formed, as Lindsay mentioned. And also the opportunities that come out of those connections and out of having all these people in this creative space together is incredible, and continues well beyond the summer and into our careers. And I think we've all experienced that being here this summer. So yeah.
Thanks, Julia. So I want to wrap up by asking each of you in 3 words or less to just try to describe this Touchstone experience. And I'm going to start with Mac.
Oh boy, I am not the person to be put on the spot first, but here we go. I would say expansive, challenging, and I mean that in a good way, and surprising.
Thank you for qualifying the challenging.
Very good way.
And how about Eric and then Ryan, since you're all on the same computer?
Yep. So 3 words for me would probably be motivating, relentless, and inspiring for sure.
And Ryan?
Expansive, incredible, and fun.
And we'll pass it over to Becca.
I don't know. Community, exploring, inspiring.
Great. And JB?
Probably networking, community as well, and incredible, honestly. Yeah.
And Julia?
Probably experimental, inspiring, and expansive.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again. Thank you to the interns. You guys work so hard. I don't think anyone realizes how many hours you put in, and the passion and enthusiasm that you bring to the position really rubs off on everyone in the studios and makes the experience just that much richer. So thank you for that. And thank all of you for tuning in to get a little taste of what these artists are doing now in their careers. I hope that you will all watch them as their careers go forward. They're really ones to watch, and we will certainly be keeping up with them as well and checking back periodically to see where their careers take them. So it's a really exciting thing to see happening. So thank you so much. And if you missed any of the contact information and would like to get in touch with any of these artists, please feel free to reach out to Touchstone directly. We're happy to put you in touch with them. So thank you so much. Have a great night.